I can't see anybody's camera though. Nobody has their camera on. Everybody's invisible. Hello, Ann. You turned your camera on. Good. It's nice to see people.
I didn't want to because I've got no makeup on. Didn't prepare.
Oh my gosh, I didn't put my makeup on. I have a zit like I'm a teenager. You know.
No, I got more zits than you.
I need a haircut. You know, it's all good. There's Peter floating in the
Hello.
Hey
I'm
there.
here, but I've literally just finished kickboxing, so I am going to be putting the camera back off.
Oh, wow. That is very sweaty.
Yep. So 2.5 hours of kickboxing done. So now I'm tuning in. So thank you, Richard. I'll be listening in, driving home.
All right. Yeah, listen and drive. Don't text and drive. Look at that. Jessica's picture, though, is a picture of her kickboxing in a dress. So there you go. Well, we'll give people another 60 seconds according to my clock. And we'll get started with some awesome stuff. I was actually trying to figure out a way to embed this into Facebook, but I couldn't figure out how to do it. There is a way.
Hi, everyone. I'm Laura.
Hi, Laura.
Hi.
Hi.
Richard, if we get distracted, there's quite a kind of important football match going on here in the UK right now. So if we suddenly get excited, don't be alarmed.
Oh, I won't be alarmed. That's perfectly okay. You know, I understand the importance of football.
Hi, Richard.
Hi.
So the way to embed it, I can show you some other time if you want, but if you're recording it, then we can still upload it to the cloud and put it in the group later. Okay, we'll be good then. We'll be fine.
That way you'll be able to use my words against me later.
Or for you.
Welcome aboard. So you, everybody, you are getting together every month in this Hypnotherapy Uncensored group. Is that correct?
Yes. Yep.
Awesome. How many months have you been getting together?
Let's see. I started this group last October of 2020, I think it was.
All right.
And it's sometimes, if I don't have another guest host, then I'll do it. But I try to just, it's everybody's group. It's not my group, even though I started it. It's like for everybody.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well,
it's not to make money necessarily. It's to just share skills, techniques, methods, information, wisdom, ask questions, and have people like you.
I'll share some wisdom or techniques or ideas or methods.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I've had kind of fun in this group. I guess I got added to the group. I don't know why early on. And I kept sort of following it. Usually I just delete myself from most of the Facebook groups because there's so many Facebook groups, you can't just pay attention to all of them. And my group has 7,000 people in it, and that's pretty big. And so I thought to myself, but I keep seeing posts that were interesting, where people were actually talking about techniques and ideas that actually help people. And people in the group seem to have a passion for helping people, new people trying to figure out how to, old people trying to figure out how to do that better. It's actually been pretty cool because I got into this whole field for really two reasons. One, I didn't have to take math in order to get a degree in counseling. And two, I actually really like helping other people. I remember one of my greatest moments as a counselor was when I went into a convenience store, and I was going in, I was going to refill my big iced tea. I live in Texas, so that's why my iced tea is so big. Everything's big here. And I walked into the convenience store, and you know, it was just some convenience store. It was called Get and Go, right? And I go into the store and I grab my iced tea, and I don't know what it was, you know, snack or something. I go up to the desk. And the clerk, he's got half his head is shaved off over here. And and he's got like a purple mohawk on this side, and, spikes coming out of here. It's got a nose ring, and it's got a chain that's tied to his lover's nipple, who's sitting on a little box behind the check stand. And I put my stuff on the counter, and he looked down at me, because the counter's raised, and he said, "Hey, Richard." I said, "Yeah." He said, "Remember me?" Sort of. He said, yeah. I'm Bob, and I was in your therapy group like 7 years ago. He said, "Boy, I just wanted to say thank you. It really changed my life." Here he was, at Get and Go as the nighttime checker guy, dressed like a bum, and I said, "Well, I'm glad my group was really helpful, and that you have this awesome job. And how much are my, snacks and my iced tea?" He looked down at me, he said, "Yeah." He said, "I'm really lucky I have this job." He said, "This job, they're really, really flexible." He said, "And because they're flexible, I was able to keep this job while I finish up my degree at Northeastern State University, and I graduate with my master's degree of social work next month." And so, your group, and I walked out of there thinking to myself, wow, how awesome to be able to have an impact to help people in positive ways. So I got in this field ultimately because I love helping people make change. It's actually pretty cool. And I've been doing this hypnotherapy for a long, long time. For those who don't know, I'm actually licensed in the USA is different than the UK, different than Australia. But I'm licensed as a marriage and family therapist and provide psychotherapy here in the USA. I was lucky because early on when I was in graduate school, I was randomly assigned a professor who was doing my clinical supervision, my practicum, and he was one of Milton Erickson's students. And he said, "Well, if you're going to work with me, you're going to have to learn hypnosis because I do hypnosis." And so he taught me how to do hypnosis from an Ericksonian tradition using the methods that he used in his practice. So I was lucky that early on, I don't know how old I was, maybe 22 at the time, and I got to learn the methods of Ericksonian hypnosis, which I then began using it with all my clients in traditional psychotherapy and counseling. And early on, nobody wants a 22-year-old marriage counselor, right? So I worked with families in the context of substance abuse treatment, and as a family therapist in the context of substance abuse treatment, I got a chance to use hypnosis to help the addicts during withdrawal, to help the families with improving rapport and communication with family members. I got to use hypnosis as a strategy to help people clarify their values and get ahead. And then, of course, later on in life, in my private practice, I got a chance to use hypnosis with everybody. And then it was back in 2006, and I had the Tulsa Counseling Center. And I decided I no longer wanted to do psychotherapy that used hypnosis. I was only going to do hypnosis. So I changed the sign, and the sign now said Tulsa Hypnosis Center. And my focus has not been on psychotherapy, not doing counseling, not trying to help. In counseling, we often help people who are less than functional move to an adequate level of functioning. It's really what most counseling work is, taking people who are dysfunctional and helping them become functional. And in hypnosis and coaching, I get a chance to work with people who are, in many cases, functioning well, who want to rise to their highest level of peak performance. And that's really been awesome. So I love helping people with hypnosis because I get a wide variety of people. And unlike my former mental health clients who were always in crisis, I get to work with a lot of people right now who are at the top of their game, who are trying to reach their highest level of peak performance. And it's been pretty cool. I like doing that with academic performance. One of the great things about hypnosis is a great strategy for test taking, not only recollection and memory, but creating the resource state of calm and focus to help people who might have anxieties about test taking. I love working with people in sports performance because anybody who's good at their sport is operating in the zone. And so, Anne, you were talking about the footballers there in the UK. And if they do really well today, it's going to be because they were actually kicking the ball subconsciously, not with the conscious mind. The conscious mind gets in the way of our success in so many things. And being able to create that resource state of hypnosis in sports performance is a fun thing to do. I love working with smokers. I love working with people who want to lose weight. I love working with people who would like to overcome a fear of public speaking or develop confidence in any situation, or even people who've been struggling with depression for their whole life in many cases. And they've tried every solution and haven't been able to find one yet. And I wish that hypnosis, I often feel like the witch doctor. I'm the last person that people call rather than the first person that people call. And I remember one guy, he came in my office, he was so depressed. He was 46 years old. He was 425 pounds. He was 5'7". I can't convert that for you metric people or imperial people, but he was a big giant guy and he wasn't very tall. And he came in and he said, I considered bariatric surgery, but the surgeon won't take me. The surgeon said that I have a heart problem because of my weight and he can't do the surgery. And he said, I'm desperate. He said, if you can't help me, this is the end for me. I'm not going to live another 24 months. And it was really a pretty powerful moment for me as a therapist, because I realized then that I was the last person he called. He had spent his whole life fighting his weight. And finally, he called the hypnotist when there was no one left to call. And I wish that he had found me 20 years earlier. I wish that we were often the first person that people call rather than the last person that people call, but we still have that witch doctor role in our society. Yes, our professional recognition has been improving over the years, but the reality is we're still often the last person that we call, because hypnosis is a great tool for helping people to live a good life. I did not learn hypnosis until I was an adult, until I was 18. But my kids, I taught them hypnosis early on. I remember Alex was probably about 3 years old. He's my youngest son. And I had, back then I was selling hypnosis cassette recordings, right? Now I had some work to do. And he came in my office. He was supposed to be sleeping. He came in my office and he said, Dad, I can't sleep. Read me another story. I said, I already read you 17 stories. Go back to bed. And so I walked him back, put him back in bed, went back to my office. A few minutes later, he goes back, Dad, I need you to come read me a story. But I had work I had to do. I had something that was due. So I grabbed one of my cassettes and I brought it in his room and I put it in. And I said, I can't read you a story, but you can listen to me tell a story in this hypnosis recording. And he was 3. And he said, okay. And so I left. And about 5 minutes later, I realized he hadn't come back out of his room. So I walked back to his room and I looked around the corner. And there he was in bed, laying down in bed, going, tensing and relaxing, breathing. He was following along to the recording. And I thought to myself, wow, what if I taught my kids hypnosis? And I think I'm really, really lucky, because my family was pretty dysfunctional. I grew up in a pretty dysfunctional family. I did a TED Talk on it, so you can go to nongardtedx.com and you can hear my story. It was kind of a mess. And my kids have never seen me take a drink. My kids have never seen me not go to work. My oldest son, who just turned 30 last week, has 2 kids, a third one on the way. He's married and he is a super sergeant in the U.S. Army, career military. My daughter is a speech language pathologist who just decided to go back and get her master's degree in social work. So she starts school this fall. She's 28. And my youngest son, who's 26, is got a master's degree in big number data crunching or something like that, something fancy. And he is a bank auditor for the federal government. So he's out protecting consumers from predatory lenders for the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. So my kids, their experience was entirely different than mine. And I think it's because they learned how to take control over their own experience early on, how to create their own success, how to tap into the power of resilience and autonomy and creativity that hypnosis provides. And so it's really pretty cool when people learn hypnosis early on, how it can really impact their whole life. So I don't know, what format do you usually follow in this group? I got some cool things. You muted me. But
sorry, I was trying to unmute me.
Yeah,
your name is right next to mine.
Well, what format do you usually follow? Because I'll try to follow a format if you have.
It's different for each guest host. So for me, I try to just go into whatever content, and then I do a Q&A towards the end. And I often will do just a quick, maybe 5 to 7 minute sort of guided hypnosis or meditation somewhere in there, just to get everybody like feeling really good and relaxed and super happy. And
one of the easiest ways to learn hypnosis is to do hypnosis. Let me share with you a technique that I use with my clients and that I use in my own life. By the way, how did I start using this in my own life? I started using this in my own life, and I generally share with clients the things that work with me, right? Because I was kind of a mess, came from I'm an adult child of an alcoholic, and I grew up in a crazy dysfunctional family that's supposed to be like the Brady Bunch, more like the Twilight Zone. And, things were really weird. And so I didn't get a lot of the coping strategies and learnings that other people, that normal kids have. My dad committed suicide when I was, 16, and life was kind of crappy. And so I didn't really know how to do all these things that normal people learn. And I learned early on a technique for self-soothing. I don't know if somebody taught it to me or if I created it. I've just been doing it for years. But I teach this to my clients because this really works for me. And I used to have a lot of anxiety. I used to be afraid to get on an airplane. Now I love to fly. I used to be afraid to drive in traffic on busy highways. Now I love my car. I just bought a new car, and it's awesome. And I love being in traffic in my new car because it's even got a massage seat built into the driver's chair. So it's I don't mind traffic anymore. It's kind of nice. And sit back and get a massage. Pretty darn cool. I used to be afraid of people, places, and things, and I'm not anymore. And it's because I really took control of my anxiety. And I've shared this technique because I had a lot of people who have panic, a lot of people with anxiety. By the way, this works with people who have withdrawal from drugs or from nicotine. This works with people who have discomfort with hunger when they're trying to lose weight. I mean, it's really a great strategy. I call it the 3-2-1 strategy. I'm going to teach it to you. We're going to do this together. And it begins by simply taking 3 breaths and counting the 3 breaths. Now, has anyone here ever taken a yoga class? Raise your hand if you've ever taken a yoga class. Look at that, a couple people. All right, there you go. Even those people who don't have their camera on. The amazing thing about hypnosis is that I can imagine you raising your hand because I know a lot of people have taken yoga classes at one time or another. In yoga, you have to breathe a special way. I like going to Bikram yoga. Bikram yoga is 26 poses, 90 minutes in a room that's 105 degrees with 94% humidity or whatever it is. So hot yoga, right? You have to breathe a certain way, right? This is not a yoga class. So it doesn't matter how you breathe. All you have to do is just count the next 3 breaths. So do this with me. Just count the next 3 breaths. 1, 2. Doesn't matter if you breathe quickly or slowly. 3. Okay, there you go. So now we've taken 3 breaths and we've counted the 3 breaths. Here's the amazing thing about counting the breaths. It's really a grounding exercise because breathing is the first thing we did in life. By the way, it's also the last thing we're going to do in life. And we do it every single day. And so it's just breathing as an activity just brings us to the center of physical, I think, and mental awareness and health. Okay. So we count 3 breaths and then we take our 2 hands, unless you're Denise and you're driving. Don't do this while driving. Take your 2 hands and do that. You're giving yourself a hug. Now, we're doing more than giving ourselves a hug here. We're actually releasing a little oxytocin here, right? We're the pleasure chemicals in the brain. Those of you who are interested in EMDR or bilateral stimulation, right? You can go like this if you wanted to. You can create that bilateral stimulation. If you're interested in havening, you can pet yourself. I just saved you $2,500 on training. There you go, self-petting, there you go. Or you can just sit like this if you want to. Really what most matters is that you just cross that left arm over the right hand, give yourself a hug. And you can uncross your hands right now. So I want to talk a little bit about mindfulness. So 3 breaths, 2 hands, and 1 minute of mindfulness. Now, mindfulness is a practice. It's something we learn to do. We are not naturally mindful people, right? How do I know that? Because evolutionary biology has trained us to scan our past experiences to predict the future. So our minds, in order to avoid a pterodactyl eating us, or to be able to store food for the harsh winter months before, we had refrigeration, scans the past experiences to help us predict the future. So our minds are either, in many cases in modern society, regretting the past. Ooh, I made this mistake. This was done wrong to me. This was screwed up. So we scan the past to predict the future. By the way, we do this in our relationships. Remember, I'm a marriage and family therapist. Oh, my last relationship was like this. That means this relationship is going to be like that. By the way, that's not necessarily true at all. But this impedes people's sexual happiness, their emotional happiness, their ability to connect, to be honest, to open, to facilitate dialogue. All these things are affected by this scanning the past to predict the future. But that's the way our minds work. And if you try not to think about either the past or the future, minds don't really work like that either. So like a fish swims in water, people swim in thoughts. So a fish is swimming in water. We're literally swimming in our thoughts. So to clear the mind is not actually possible, because that's not how minds work. Okay. Rather, instead of trying to clear the mind, we're trying to accept the mind. So when we have a thought or a feeling or a sensation, rather than lamenting the past or fearing the future, if we can just accept it as being what it is in this moment, then it actually holds no power, and I can go back to being focused on the present. So the practice of mindfulness literally is the mechanism of recognizing a thought or a feeling or a sensation and letting it just be a thought or a feeling or a sensation, without having to attach it to the past or jump into the future with it. It's about just saying, oh, that was an anxiety, or that was a withdrawal, or that was a hunger, or that was a fear, or that was a self-defeating thought, right? You have all these thoughts and feelings and sensations. 50,000 thoughts a day, cognitive researchers tell us. That's a lot of thinking. Okay. Our goal is to not follow them either into the past or into the future, but to just be present with them. And this is what mindfulness is all about. So we do 3 breaths, 2 hands, and then 1 minute of mindfulness practice. How do you practice mindfulness? Here's how you practice mindfulness: by paying attention to the breath. Why pay attention to the breath? Simple. No matter where you go, you have the breath with you. It's easy to pay attention to the breath. Each breath marks each moment, right? It's a good little timing device. And by paying attention to the breath, you're paying attention to something that we do mindlessly. We mindlessly breathe. And by intentionally paying attention to the breath, you're practicing where you're placing your attention. In this case, this present moment. And the reason this is so powerful is because, well, the great master Oogway gave us some words of wisdom on this. He told us this. The great master Oogway said, yesterday is history. Tomorrow is a mystery. All we have is the present. And that's why it's a gift. And if you don't know who the great master Oogway is, he is, of course, the turtle from the Kung Fu Panda movie. And his words of wisdom are greatly appreciated. So when we stay in the present, it's really a gift. It's a gift to our body. It's a gift to our mind. It's a gift to our spirit. But we have to practice this. And when we practice it, then it becomes a part of who we are, mindful people. And we intuitively set aside the regrets of the past or the fears of the future, and we live in the present moment. So how do you practice this? You practice it by closing your eyes for a minute and paying attention to the breath. And during that minute period, anytime you have a thought, well, Richard's boring, or I'm not sure why I'm here, I have something to do at 5 o'clock, or this is fascinating. It's just a thought. You don't have to stop it. You don't have to follow it. You can just let a thought be a thought and use it as an indicator. I better pay attention back to my breath again. If you have a feeling, oh, that was sad, or that was happy, or that was anxiety producing, or that, rather than following that anxiety or that depression or that fear, just let it be what it is. Be present with it. Remember Little Miss Muffet? Little Miss Muffet, she sat on her tuffet, eating her curds away. Along came a spider and sat down beside her and scared Miss Muffet away. Miss Muffet was scared away because of her own mind. The spider wasn't doing anything. It was just sitting beside her. Oh, there's a spider. Right? Return your attention back to the breath. Be present with the spider. Anyone know how to get out of quicksand? I don't know. Some of you are probably my age. It seemed like all the movies when I was a kid in the 60s and 70s, people always got stuck in quicksand. I was always so afraid of quicksand when I was a kid. I don't even know where quicksand is. Right? If I got stuck in quicksand, I would fight my way out. Actually, you go deeper into the quicksand when you try to fight your way out. The way to get out of the quicksand is just to be still, to float to the top of the quicksand, and then to roll out of the quicksand. So there you go. You came to this class today and you didn't know you were going to actually learn how to save your own life and get out of quicksand. And it's be still. For those of you who are religious, the psalmist said, be still and know that I am God. I mean, stillness is a part of our metaphysical and religious and cultural traditions going back in every branch of every religion and every culture that has succeeded. So we practice mindfulness. And if we do 3, 2, 1 together, it makes a great hypnotic exercise. By the way, a lot of my clients, I teach them this in the pre-talk before I ever do a hypnosis session with them. And the reason why is, one, I've actually fractionated them because I've done a hypnosis session before our actual session. Maybe 1 minute, but it's still a hypnosis session. 2, it teaches a real practical skill that they can do after the session. But 3, my clients want a solution in the first session. Right? The reason they went to a hypnotist, not a psychologist, is they didn't want 52 weeks of talking about a problem to come up with a solution. They want a solution now. And this is a great technique to take control over this moment. So let's do it together, right? Ready? 3 breaths. Count your breaths. 1, 2, 3. 2 hands. Right? Take your 2 hands. There you go. Close your eyes down. With your eyes closed down, pay attention to the breath. Notice what it's like to breathe the air in and what it's like to breathe the air out, whether you're breathing through your mouth or through your nostrils. Pay attention to what it's like to draw the air in and notice the air goes into the deepest part of the lungs, and like a swimmer in an Olympic swimming pool, it turns around and becomes an exhale. It's kind of fun to set aside any regrets of the past or fears of the future and be fully present in this moment, because right now in this class, in this chair, in this place, you're actually doing exactly what you need to be doing to improve not only your own experience, but the experience of the people you're working with. And so I'm timing you with my Swiss chronometer, and we're going to do this for a whole minute. And over the next minute, anytime you have a thought or a feeling or sensation, it's okay. We're not trying to stop those thoughts, feelings, or senses, but just use it as an indicator or a cue to return your attention back to the present moment for the time that we have remaining. Of course, a great tool for any hypnotist to have is a little bell to mark the end of 1 minute. So many people think that in order to practice self-hypnosis or meditation, we need 20 minutes or 30 minutes or an hour of being deep. Depth is actually only a metaphor in hypnosis. There's no such thing as deep in hypnosis. We're always in trance. The issue is how do we utilize the trance states? But the reason we practice 1 minute of mindfulness is not because 1 minute or 10 minutes or an hour of meditation is valuable. It's so that it can become a part of who we are so that we can make life a meditation. My goal with my clients is not to hypnotize them, but to help my clients to become hypnotic. So that 24 hours a day, they're mindful. So when they pull up to the red light where they used to find anxiety in traffic, they realize they're paying attention to the breath and that it's okay. I work with a lot of oncology clients, patients, and some of them have catastrophic diagnosis. And I let them know as long as you're breathing, you're actually okay. When you stop breathing is when you can start to worry. Right now, just pay attention to the breath because each moment of life that we have is valuable. And I don't want to destroy this moment of life with fear or anxiety or regret. I'd rather live my best life in this moment, even if to this point, life hasn't been so good, because this moment has the capacity to be awesome. And these are mindfulness-based or contextualized approaches to therapy, to counseling. And in most of my work, I'm probably pretty well known for not being the regression guy. And the reason I'm not the regression guy, it's kind of an unfair criticism of me because I do think regression has a place. I think it has a very valuable place in relapse prevention. So I used to work with probationers years ago in the 1990s. Let's just say I had a probationer who stole hubcaps, right? Why he stole hubcaps is irrelevant. He's on probation. He's got to stop stealing hubcaps or we're going to file a motion for revocation. He's going to go to jail. So I work with people to change their behavior. Later on, after we make the change, we can figure out why we stole hubcaps. And then it can become a relapse prevention tool. So I think regression is often used as the mechanism to make change. It's a better mechanism for relapse prevention. So it's almost putting the cart before the horse. But the reason I don't really focus my work on regression is really simple. I'd much rather be in the present moment. I'd much rather be in the present moment. In fact, for me, and certainly for my clients, the previous moments weren't so good. Why would I charge them $175 an hour to help them relive their misery when I can charge them $175 an hour to be fully present in this moment, no matter where they are coming from, and to be alive right here and right now? By the way, I will put in the box here URL. That's my TED Talk. Some of you have seen my TED Talk. There you go. So I just put it in there. That URL actually takes you to my TED Talk on YouTube. And I talk in that TED Talk about mindfulness because it's really sort of the theory that underlies most of my work in hypnosis. If I just taught my client 3, 2, 1, giving them the post-hypnotic suggestion, catch this, before my session even begins, then over the next week or 2 or 3, if you find yourself anxious, fearful, withdrawing, hungry, or whatever else, anytime, any place, you can take 3 breaths, give yourself a hug, take 1 minute to be mindful, and you'll discover that being fully present in the present moment produces a sense of freedom. Remember, I haven't even done my session yet, and I've already given them that post-hypnotic suggestion that they can use what I taught them. So now we do the hypnosis session. Well, I'm going to begin with probably an induction based on mindfulness. Pay attention to a point on the screen in front of you. It could be a letter in somebody's name. It could be a corner where the little squares come together. It could be something on my board behind me or something in somebody's room, a brick, whatever it is. Bring your attention there. By the way, this is a really powerful learning. I love using hypnotic inductions that teach people skills. Do this. Find a spot on the screen in front of you and bring all of your attention to it right now. Bring all of your attention to that spot in front of you. Essentially, stare at a spot. This is a simple thing. In hypnosis, we call this ocular fatigue, right? A Hollywood hypnotist might say it this way: your eyes are getting sleepy. Well, if you stare at a spot for a long enough period of time, like you're doing right now, you'll notice that spot changes. It becomes brighter, sharper, crisper, clearer. Or you'll notice some people and it becomes hazier and fuzzier, and the rest of the room becomes sharper and crisper and clearer. But when you stare at a spot for a long enough period of time, you bring all of your attention to that place. When you bring all of your attention to that place, you realize something, that I have a choice of where to put my attention. So who would this be valuable to? How about somebody who has chronic pain? Anyone here ever do hypnosis with people who have chronic pain? Yeah, there you go. Deb does. A couple other people. And where's their attention? On their pain. Oh, I have this pain in my back. I got this pain in my knee. I got this pain, this headache, whatever, wherever their chronic pain is. That chronic pain is real. It's actually there. But here's a question. Is there anywhere you're feeling comfort? Where are you comfortable right now? What if we bring our attention to where you're comfortable? What if we amplify your comfort? Right? So we can learn in a hypnotic induction, when we stare at a spot on the wall, that we literally have the ability to put our attention anywhere. I can put my attention on the abusive parents, or, the evil perpetrator, or wherever else I want to place my attention in life. But in the present moment, for most people, the only thing that remains of those people are the ghost or the memory. And in the present moment, I'm actually okay by myself. In the present moment, no matter how tough the past was, I can find a sense of freedom. So an induction begins with that eye fixation, and eye fixation teaches a skill. We can put our attention there where we want to. I usually then go into progressive muscle relaxation. I hear hypnotists all the time say, why? Progressive muscle relaxation, that's just relaxotherapy. That's not hypnosis. Herbert Benson spent years at Harvard University studying the relaxation response. He wrote a book in 1978 called The Relaxation Response, and then spent the next 40 years compiling research on the crazy benefits to our mind, body, and spirit of doing nothing other than relaxation. So I use hypnosis, relaxation, as a tool in hypnotic induction because it teaches a skill that the research shows changes lives. I love using autogenic training as a strategy. This is a strategy of creating from within. You guys want to experience a little autogenic training? It's kind of fun. All right. So in your chair where you sit, take your hands and put them on your lap or on the armrest of the chair. Close your eyes down for a moment. With your eyes closed down for a moment, pay attention to your hands on the armrest of the chair or sitting on your lap. And as you pay attention to your hands, let them relax the muscles of the hands and the fingers and the wrists. And think of the word warmth, like that which might come from the sun or from inside of the body. And as you think of the word warmth, pay attention to your hands and say to yourself, my hands are warm. My hands are warm. My hands are warm. Say that to yourself. My hands are warm. Now, think of the word heavy. And as you think of the word heavy, pay attention to your hands and say to yourself, my hands are heavy. My hands are heavy. My hands are heavy. And notice the sensation of heaviness in the relaxed hands. And now say to yourself, my hands are warm and heavy. My hands are warm and heavy. And allow yourself to create a sense of warmth or heaviness in the hands and say to yourself, my hands are warm and heavy. My hands are warm and heavy. My hands are warm and heavy. Now, with the conscious mind, of course, right now, you know you could, if you wanted to, you could lift that hand high in the air, but those hands are so comfortable being warm and heavy. If you try to lift those hands, they become locked down even tighter. They become heavier and warmer and just continue to rest on the armrest of that chair. And what's fascinating is I've never had anybody yet doing a demo say, but see, Hypno Boy, my hands are way up here. Instead, they continue to just relax, creating a sensation at any level of warmth or heaviness, saying, my hands are warm and heavy. My hands are warm and heavy. Now go ahead and open your eyes. Open your eyes. Open your eyes. Were you able to create at any level a sense of warmth or a sense of heaviness? Who felt that sense of warmth or a sense of heaviness at any level? Okay. Or both. Okay. Now, I didn't change the thermostat in your room. I didn't put a book on your hands and make it heavy. I'm not even in the same continent as some of you. Okay, I didn't do anything to you. I did something with you. I shared an experience where we created from within, and we created, in this case, warmth and heaviness. But this is just a learning experience, because if I can create warmth and heaviness, can I create confidence? Can I create authority? Can I create happiness? Can I create centeredness? Could I create balance? Could I create active listening? Could I create partnership? What else can I create from within? And we spend so much of our life looking outside of ourselves when we have the ability to create from within. If we can create warmth and heaviness, we can literally create anything. So my induction moves from relaxation to creation, to visualization where people are able to create a safe space for them. What people see with their minds sometimes are the experiences that haven't been so resourceful. So imagine yourself on a beautiful day underneath a clear blue sky, a place you've been before, a place you'd like to go, or even a place of your own creation. I love that line. Imagine yourself on a perfect day underneath a clear blue sky in a place you've been, a place you'd like to go, or a place that you've created in your own mind. Nobody can't do that. And imagine in that clear blue sky, a single white puffy cloud lazily and leisurely floating towards the horizon. As it moves towards the horizon, it becomes smaller and smaller. And eventually there will come a point where that puffy white cloud disappears off into the horizon. It's at that point that both mind and body are deeply relaxed. Never asleep, but deeply relaxed. This is using a visualization technique. Sometimes people say, what if I have a client who can't visualize? Imagine. They'll attach the meaning that's important to them. If somebody says, well, I can't, I hear this all the time, my client isn't kinesthetic, or my client isn't auditory, or my client isn't visual, then teach them how to be. Help them to increase their visual acuity. Teach them to increase their kinesthetic response. Teach them to increase their auditory capacity. So if we have somebody who says, I can't do that, we'll help them to do it, because there really isn't anything we can't do. Okay. So by that puffy white cloud, how do I know it becomes smaller and disappears into the horizon? How do I know that? Because that's the way the Earth's rotation works and the horizon works. It always gets smaller. Everybody always sees the same thing, right? That's how the Earth works, right? So the cloud will always become smaller as it moves towards the horizon. It will always disappear because the horizon disappears because the Earth rotates. So this is a real simple way of doing visualization that always produces the same response. The only person who can't do this is a baby who is just born and has never left a hospital, so they don't know what a clear blue sky is and how the horizon works, or a blind person who hasn't been able, who's truly blind. 95% of blind people have some visual capacity. So there are people who are pitch black, dark blind. Not very many, but they would have a challenging time with this because they wouldn't know what those things are. But those aren't most of our clients. For everybody else, they have the ability to do this. So we combine skills that we can teach people. We can create an awesome hypnotic induction, and then we can end this with more mindfulness. Remember back when we started our session and I taught you how to be mindful for a minute? Be mindful now. Pay attention to the chair below you, the air in the room around you, to my voice. The good news is you've said everything you couldn't do outside that door before you got here. And here in the office, we're here to make changes. And these changes, by the way, aren't things you have yet to make, but things you've already committed to. So in fact, these are changes you've already made. So the real question for us here today is not how do I produce change, but how do I continue the change that I've already created? Notice that's really powerful. Let's say I have a smoker. They want to quit smoking, right? They already quit smoking before we did our session. The real question for me is, how do I get them to stay stopped? Because they've already committed to it. They wouldn't have shown up. They wouldn't have paid $275. They wouldn't have been sitting in this chair listening to the headphones and having me do a hypnosis session. They're not smoking a cigarette in my session. The office is non-smoking. So the real question is not, how do we stop smoking? You've already done that. The real question is, how do we stop starting? And we can use a wide variety of different techniques. And a lot of people teach approaches to hypnosis that are almost always predicated on one technique, right? It seems like a lot of hypnosis trainings are, use this method and this, use this 5-step process or use this approach. And, we can adapt it to anybody and everybody will get better. People really aren't that similar. Everyone is unique. You need a wide repertoire of approaches. And when you have a lot of, a lot of different approaches that you can draw from, you can use indirect suggestion, direct suggestion. By the way, never underestimate the power of direct suggestion. People think it's too simple. It does work. It's highly effective. In fact, have you heard of cognitive behavioral therapy? Right? I mean, every psychologist in UK and Australia and the US is using cognitive behavioral therapy. Albert Ellis, who is the developer of cognitive behavioral therapy, people forget in his book, Rational Emotive Therapy, wrote 2 full chapters on the effectiveness of cognitive behavioral therapy in hypnosis because he was a hypnotist. And cognitive behavioral therapy is actually direct suggestion, countering the cognitive errors. Sometimes people say, well, wait a minute, you're teaching hypnotists cognitive behavioral therapy and acceptance and commitment therapy and dialectical behavioral therapy and solution-focused brief therapy. All these folks borrowed from hypnosis. Sometimes people say, wait a minute, you're teaching people without a license to do psychotherapy. Actually, those people are often doing Buddhism without ordination because none of the ideas they're teaching today are new ideas. They're as old as time. And here's the amazing thing. The research shows they're highly effective. They're highly effective. 12,000 peer-reviewed journal articles that show the effectiveness of hypnosis. It's pretty amazing. So I know some of you are familiar with some of the books I've written. I've written a lot of books. I gave away a book in the group a couple of weeks ago titled Reframing Hypnotherapy that I co-wrote with Kelly Woods. If you didn't get that, go to the file section of the Hypnotherapy Uncensored group and you'll find the PDF of that book. You could go to Amazon and get a paperback if you prefer to read a paperback, but it's the full book. It's all 250 pages or whatever it is. For self-hypnosis techniques and strategies, I wrote 2 books. One is titled The 7 Most Effective Methods of Self-Hypnosis. One of them is titled Self-Hypnosis Solution. Those are some really good strategies that you can use in your own life and then share with your clients. My most recent book came out last week. It's titled Excellence in NLP and Life Coaching. And nowhere does the cover say hypnosis, but anybody who's a hypnotist will recognize hypnosis in every page in this book. It's kind of like my favorite book in hypnosis is titled Get Out of Your Mind and Into Your Life by Stephen Hayes. Never does he mention the word hypnosis, but the entire book is a hypnosis book. So this has a lot of strategies and ideas. And I see in this group kind of a frustration in that a lot of people seem to have been taught a set of strategies that this is what works. The reality is what works, according to the research, is a present tense therapy, a mindfulness-based approach, one that doesn't lament the past or project into the future, but works with the client right where they are. This is the heart of contextual hypnotherapy, the context of the present moment. So there you go. Well, it's kind of what I do. For those who don't know who I am and what it is that I do, and some of the things I like to teach. I'm gonna post a couple of things. Actually, I was gonna post a couple of things in this chat box, but the chat box will go away, and sometimes it doesn't seem to work for everybody. I'm gonna post some things in the Facebook group. I'm gonna post a model of induction that I just talked about that teaches skills. Okay. I'm going to post as a like nice little infographic I created. I'll post a link to a blog post I did with the 3-2-1 technique, so you can share that with your clients. So when we're done here today, I'll post some of those things over there in the Hypnotherapy Uncensored group for you. But hey, I'm happy to answer any questions about hypnosis or anything.
There's a few questions that have come up in the past week that I wanted to just throw out there. And if you don't have a chance to answer them right now, if you could maybe just post them in the group at some point.
Oh, sure.
But about probably 50% of the people on this call are either current or former RTT practitioners who are looking for additional certification programs and not altogether sure what that means. What's the difference between clinical? What's the difference between hypnotherapists or practitioner? And so since you're on the board of directors of ICBCH, I thought maybe you could just sort of respond to that, you know, using
Sure.
the information and knowledge that you have.
One of the things that's true in Australia, the UK, and the US and Canada is that hypnotherapy is largely completely unregulated. So the value of any certification is only in the responsiveness of the organization to the members who it serves. So nobody needs any certification. Every one of us can do this job with zero certification. You can actually not be a member of any organization and have no certification, and you can spend the rest of your life helping people with the skills that you have. Certification is not required anywhere. It may be required to purchase insurance, but understand what we do is relatively low risk anyway. I love the way the Mayo Clinic describes hypnosis. They use this word: hypnosis is a benign process. In other words, it's pretty hard to hurt people with hypnosis. When hypnotists get sued, it's because they slept with them or stole from them. It's not because anything hypnotic bad happened. Okay, so you know, don't sleep with them and don't steal from them, and you're probably not going to go to jail and get sued as a hypnotist. But certification is a lot of different organizations have certification. The ICBCH has three different certifications: a certified hypnotist, a certified professional hypnotist, and a certified clinical hypnotherapist. But this is not a hierarchy. Okay. A certified hypnotist in the ICBCH is somebody who's relatively new, who has a basic set of skills and strategies, can actually begin to help you with those skills and strategies now. There isn't anybody who can't benefit from the simple process of hypnosis. If all I did was induction, deepener, and reorientation, 90% of the people would think that was incredible. So you know, we don't have to have all these techniques and things, because just
what's the difference between the three? It doesn't seem like, as far as I can tell, it's not like you can take insurance still. You can't.
Yeah, right.
It's just another thing on your wall.
Right. So exactly. In the ICBCH, you know, the certified professional hypnotist, someone has a higher level of training. And again, the value of the title and the certification is only tied to how responsive the organization is to its
members. The value of the organization.
Right. Doesn't
I understand.
support the development of hypnosis as a profession. The ICBCH.
Exactly what I needed to hear.
We like to think that we do. And so people keep joining the ICBCH. And if you're certified by another organization, you actually join the ICBCH through reciprocity. You get access to a lot of great training tools and resources and mentorship and other things. And if you don't find it of value, well, don't become a member next year. It's a whopping $47 a year to become a member of the ICBCH. I think it's $97 through reciprocity for the first year. It's $47 every year thereafter. In the USA, this is really important, and this only applies to the USA. But in the USA, the term therapist is a protected title in many states. Washington State is the oddball that actually requires that a hypnotist call himself a hypnotherapist. California is California, You can call yourself a hypnotherapist or a hypnotist or whatever you want to, as long as you disclose that you're not licensed by the state of California, informed consent. But Texas, where I live, Florida, where Jason lives, this is a title protection state. It doesn't matter who gave you a certificate. You cannot use the word hypnotherapist in the state of Texas unless you have a master's degree in therapy and a professional license. So it doesn't matter how much you paid or how much training you have or what organization you're a member of. If you're in the state of Texas and you say, I provide hypnotherapy, the state of Texas is going to shut you down. And that's, by the way, probably true in more states than not, but this is more important. So people don't know this. In another life, I'm an internet online marketer. Yes, I build websites for myself and for other people. Webpagesfortherapists.com. And here's the deal. Your clients, a lot of people have this weird perception that being a hypnotherapist is better than being a therapist. The reality is your clients want a hypnotist, not a hypnotherapist, because they don't want to go to therapy. They want to be hypnotized. Google tells us that this is true. If I build somebody a website and I keyword it for stop smoking hypnotherapy, they will get 10% of the hits as somebody else who has their website keyworded as stop smoking hypnosis, because people want hypnosis. They don't want hypnotherapy. So I think a lot of times these titles become important to people, not because they're important to the consumer, but a lot of times people think, oh, I have to impress people with my training and my credentials. Look, I have as many degrees as a rectal thermometer. I have an associate degree from the University of the State of New York. I have a bachelor's degree. I have a master's degree from an accredited school. I have a doctorate from an accredited school. I'm licensed as a marriage and family therapist in Texas and in Oklahoma. And, I have lots of other credentials and certificates. No client has ever asked me about them. No client cares where I got my training. All they care about is, do you care about me? And do you have some tools that can help me? So lead with compassion, not with credentials. That's really the most important thing. Affiliate with organizations that help you become a better person, therapist, helping other people. That's really what's most important. If the organization isn't giving to you, join a different organization. They all offer reciprocity. But a lot of discussion in the group I've seen lately about Mike Mandel. Mike Mandel and I didn't really become friends till probably about 5 years ago. I have a real appreciation for their approach and the work that they do. I've been a guest on Mike's podcast. And again, great training. The Mike Mandel Hypnosis Academy really trains people to help people. That's really what Mike's most interested in. I think Jason Lynette and I, when we do our training for the ICBCH together, are really trying to help people to help other people. Look, as far as business success goes, I'm fortunate. I've written 28 books and they sell pretty well. Here's the secret. I can actually not go to work ever again and live my life. Not a bad position to be in. Why do I still do the work? Because I love helping other people. It's really cool when I run into a client at Walmart and they come running up to me and say, oh, Richard, it's so good to see you. Remember me? I quit smoking 3 years ago. Or remember me? You trained me to help other people. And now I have a thriving practice over on the north side of town. Yay. Awesome. Great. There's a guy here in Houston. I trained him about 12 or 13 years ago in hypnosis through the ICBCH. And now that I moved back to Houston, I live in the Houston area. He's got a thriving private practice 13 years later. And we usually, eat lunch together. I'm going to call it maybe, once every 2 or 3 weeks, talk about different ideas and things like that. And it's so great to see somebody he's got like 500 Yelp reviews. I mean, a furniture store can't even get 500 Yelp reviews. He's a freaking hypnotist, and everybody loves him and leaves these great reviews because he helps them lose weight and stop smoking. And this is meaningful work. Some people are like, oh, well, a hypnotist, I just help people quit smoking. That's not meaningful work. I had a lady come to my office. She was like 62, I think. And she said, I came here because I have to quit smoking. She said, I have a 2-year-old grandson. She said, but I got diagnosed with leukemia about 6 weeks ago. she said, and I don't know what the results of my treatment are going to be. I don't know if I have 2 more months to live, or if I have 2 years to live, or if I have 20 years to live. But I know this. I know that I want to be here for my grandson as long as I possibly can. But if I'm smoking, my treatment is not going to be effective. So I want to quit smoking so that I can have a relationship with my only grandson. And I thought back to it. I was really lucky. My grandmother lived to be 96 and my grandfather lived to be 98. My grandparents were still alive when I was in my 40s. And I had such an awesome relationship with them. And when she said she wanted to have a relationship with her grandson, all I could think about was the wonderful relationship I had with my grandmother and my grandfather. Remember my little story? It's not so good. There's a lot of crappy stuff. Well, my grandmother and my grandfather were the bright spot in that. And the cool thing was they were alive until I was in my 40s. When I hypnotized her to quit smoking, I wasn't hypnotizing her to quit smoking. I was hypnotizing her so that grandson could have a gift that would last with him the rest of his life. That's some really powerful work that we're doing. When you help somebody who's a 48-year-old attorney who's 425 pounds, who's been ruled out as a candidate for bariatric surgery, lose half his body weight in the next 24 months, you save a family, you save a community, you save a kid from being lonely. I don't know who had a parent die when you were young. It kind of sucks. And that guy's father is going to be around for a long time because he was successful. And the work that we do is really important work, even if sometimes there's simple problems that people bring to the office. Oh, does that answer the question?
Yes. Thank you.
By the way,
Yes.
I give long-winded answers. Please don't get hung up.
No, I'm taking notes. That's why
don't get hung up on certification, though. You know, certification is ultimately the certification that matters is, do you help people, and do they respond, and do they send you other people to help because you were compassionate, because you were careful? Because so many people get hung up on the method. This is what makes me upset about regress to cause people. I hear all these regrets to cause people say, oh, I did this regress to cause protocol and it really, all these people got better and changed. This is the best approach. Actually, the research doesn't show it's the best approach. Actually, the research shows that it's long been a discarded approach by any form of professional psychotherapy. It was created by Sigmund Freud and Jan Brewer, who in later life rejected the idea of regression. And those ideas held on because they were the earliest ideas taught in psychology. Before Freud, theology was the queen of social sciences. And because of Freud, who organized the taxonomy of psychology, psychology became the academic queen of the social sciences. But Freud and Brewer long discarded their ideas, but yet they had published so much that the ideas just, it's kind of like once you mistype something on the internet on a website, it keeps getting mistyped everywhere. That's kind of what happens. The reality is your clients are getting well despite the fact that you're using regress to cause. The research shows that it's not the method that's most important. What's most important is the relationship. This is why good therapists can use bad methods and still have tremendous results. But I get so angry with regress to cause people because they're like, I use regress to cause and it's so great. It's not. You're great. You're a caring person. You're a compassionate person. You have empathy. You build relationships. You care about other people. Don't give credit to the method because the method actually isn't the most effective. The most effective methods, the research tells us, are the methods based in contextual psychology, the present tense therapeutic methods of mindfulness and brief cognitive behavioral therapy and all these other tools that are out there. So a lot of clients are getting well despite the fact that therapists are using bad methods because it's not the method that's ultimately most important. Ultimately, what's most important is your ability to connect and care for other people. If you're genuine, you'll have success and results. And this is a really good news for you. What this means is that you don't have to be a perfect therapist in order to have results. My favorite video is this. I have a video on YouTube. There's 1 million hits, more than 1 million hits. It's me doing a hypnosis session. And I end the session this way. I end the session with, and in a moment, I'm going to count to 3. When I count to 3, open your eyes. 1, take in a breath. 2, stretch out the muscles that need to be stretched. And 1, open the eyes. I never got to 3. I screwed up my count. I didn't do it correctly. And yet, there are literally tens of thousands of messages on that YouTube video, because more than 1 million people have watched it, to say, oh my gosh, this was really helpful. Like every 100th comment is, help, I'm stuck in hypnosis. You never got to 3. But we know they're just joking, because you can't get stuck in hypnosis. And even if you did, that would probably be a good thing anyway. But it's not the technique. The research shows that, by the way. It's not the technique. People have a tremendous change despite the techniques that are used by therapists. A lot of therapists, by the way, not just hypnotists, a lot of therapists use crappy techniques, right? But yet they have good results. And then there are people who use great techniques and they have no results because they have no care and compassion. And you can't. I see this all the time in inpatient psychiatric care. They've given some processes and training sheets to the staff because this is what's going to meet the requirements for the insurance company. And yet the patients don't make change. They don't get better. They stay stuck. Why? Because delivering a process without compassion, without care, without rapport, without developing the therapeutic relationship, all the good techniques in the world are meaningless also. They say that, according to the research, about 15% of the efficacy of a session is the technique. So, Christina, you said, by the way, let me answer you here. You have huge care and immense compassion. I still can't find enough people who are willing to pay me on a consistent basis. There are enough people who will pay you. Unfortunately, a lot of programs teach fix broken people with your skills. A much better business model is help people who are doing well to achieve a higher level of success. So let me share with you as an example in marriage and family therapy. Let's say Bob and Bertha fight too much. They fight about sex. They fight about kids. They fight with each other. They're having a bad time in their marriage. And they say, I'm going to go see a marriage and family therapist. Our marriage is falling apart. Those people want Aetna, the insurance company, to pay the bill. They're going to pay $40 a session out of pocket, blah, 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 blah. I used to do that kind of work. That was horrible. It's a horrible way to earn a living. I'd rather work with Bob and Bertha, who are 57 and 62. And right when he finished college, he opened up a dry cleaning business. And he met his wife when she was a freshman at the university that he had gone to, and she came to work in the dry cleaning business, and she really helped him with the business, and they built the business together. And then they got married when she graduated from college, and they opened up some other dry cleaning shops. And now at 57 years and 62 years of age, they own 17 dry cleaning shops, and they just sold them for $17 million, right? Because they're going to retire. And their kids grew up to be successful like my kids. And instead of trying to fix a broken marriage, they have an exceptional marriage. And they're trying to figure out how to create a legacy intergenerationally with their children and how it is that they can help their community with the wealth that they've created. I would rather work with people who are not in crisis trying to become adequate, but with people who are adequate trying to move to a highest level of peak performance. If you don't find enough people in your practice, part of that is a lot of times we spend time learning therapy and techniques and methods, but we don't spend time learning business. So on my desk right now are a lot of therapy books, but also business books. By the way, anything by Perry Marshall is a good book. If you want to increase your business, buy any book by Perry Marshall. Perry Marshall's brilliant. My favorite book by Perry Marshall is titled 80-20 Sales and Marketing. 80-20 Sales and Marketing. So if you spend time developing your clinical skills, develop your business skills, read business books, take business classes. So again, without doing a 10-day workshop, there's an answer there.
No, and I honestly get probably 70% of my clients through Google.
Yeah.
Google Ads, yeah.
You know, search engine optimization is super important.
Yes.
But more important than search engine optimization is, do you have a web page that, that actually creates two-way communication, or do you just have a giant electronic brochure? I find a lot of hypnotists really need help with the marketing and the business side of things. I do some website work and consulting. There's a link to the work that I do. By the way, all the tools that I use are on that page. And there's even a free resource you can use on internet marketing. So, you know, go grab it. You know, it might be a resource for you. Poker performance coaching using hypnosis. That's awesome. So I lived in Las Vegas for a long time. People ask me, do you hypnotize people to quit gambling? No, that's a horrible business model, because pathological gamblers, if they have an appointment on Thursday, but they win on Wednesday, no show because they no longer have a problem. So I don't use hypnosis to help pathological gamblers quit gambling. Like you, I help gamblers win. So they don't have a problem. By the way, the only way to help gamblers win is to teach them blackjack or poker, because you can't win at any other game. Because poker is a game of skill. I love using autogenic training as a way. You know, we have 200 little micro muscles in the face. These are our tells in poker. And so progressive muscle relaxation and autogenic training are really my favorite strategies with the poker player. Because they let them take both physical and emotional control over the game. And when they take physical and emotional control over the game, they don't need the sunglasses and the earbuds. They can simply defeat them with the power of hypnosis. And it's great to see some of my poker players in the world champion poker tournament have ranked pretty high in recent years. So pretty cool. Good question. But yeah, I don't help them quit gambling, but I help them win so that their gambling isn't a problem. Autogenic training. And autogenic training is the warm and heavy. So most people are familiar with progressive muscle relaxation. That came about in 1928 when Edmund Jacobson identified 16 muscle groups. Autogenic training is a set of strategies that came about from a German doctor in 1932 named Johannes Schultz. Who he was working with heart patients, you know, before Plavix, before transplants, before all this sort of stuff. And so all his patients were dying. He was like, I got to figure out some way to keep them alive till we invent all this cool stuff. So he taught them how to take control over their own experiences. So autogenic training is a method of learning to take control over your physical as well as your mental experiences and create from within. This is popular in the UK and Australia, or at least it's not unknown in the UK and Australia. In America, you'll find nobody talking about it except for nurses. Very easy to learn. And just Google autogenic training. In my book, The 7 Most Effective Methods of Self-Hypnosis, there's a whole chapter devoted to it. I probably have some old YouTube videos on autogenic training as well. But autogenic training is a great skill every hypnotist can and should learn. And the cool thing is, it's not complex, it's not rocket science. It's not rocket surgery, as they say. It's about working with people to create from within. Auto means, self, and genic, from within. So to create from within. And so I love the original 8-week protocol was 8 weeks of, by the way, autogenic training in hypnosis for hot flashes, menopause. The first week of autogenic training ends with my forehead is cool. My forehead is cool. Well, if I create warmth and heaviness, I can create coolness. I can create a response to any unpleasant experience at a physical level. Autogenic training is just a great strategy, a great technique. Not likely to find too many Americans talking about it unless they have a nursing background. But you will find some people in the UK and Australia talking about it. If anybody wants to charge you $8,000 for an autogenic training certification, don't do it. Just go to YouTube and practice it yourself. When you practice it yourself, you'll discover how to do it. And when you discover how to do it, you'll learn the power and you'll share it with other people. So it doesn't have to be expensive to learn hypnosis or hypnotic techniques. In fact, I'm convinced the more expensive it is, the crappier the training is.
Sorry, I should be muted.
I mean, it really does seem to be true. I mean, it's just been my experience. So price is directly inverse to the quality of training in many cases. Who else has a question? Yeah, so Tanya, do I personally offer training programs? So I do. Somebody might have sent you a link. God knows what link they sent you, because I'm actually in the middle of rebuilding all my web pages and changing all my web pages. But currently I'm doing the ICBCH training with Jason Lynette on a regular basis. We do it about 4 or 5 times a year. And the great thing about doing it with Jason, I just posted a link to it. The great thing about doing it with Jason is Jason has a pretty strong business background as well. So we want people to learn how to do hypnosis, but we want them to be able to build a business and to help people. For those of you who are already certified by an organization, though, you can actually join the ICBCH through reciprocity. Anyone who joins the ICBCH through reciprocity will become certified by the ICBCH as a certified professional hypnotist, and you actually get a bunch of resources. You actually get what used to be my online training years ago called the ICBCH Gold Level Training. It was about 40 hours worth of content right off the bat, just for becoming a reciprocity member with the ICBCH. Yeah, work smart hypnosis. Yeah, Carissa, I tell people all the time, people are like, what should I do for business? I'm like, just go take Jason's course. I offer a business training course usually twice a year. But that's more focused in online marketing and internet marketing than it is sort of broader marketing. I find that most hypnotists really don't know how to do social media marketing effectively, how to do online marketing, how to do web development. I usually offer that twice a year. I probably won't offer it again until the fall, probably till October, November, December.
Consider me your next student, because I have some holes in my knowledge and education when it comes to social media and Kajabi specifically.
Yeah, well, if you take my course, you're probably going to learn to do something other than Kajabi.
Well, if I could pick the whole thing up and move it somewhere less expensive, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, exactly what I teach people to do. So
Perfect.
yeah, Anthony's great. Anthony in the UK. I've never met Anthony, but we talked on the phone and elsewhere. I met Freddie a couple times. I don't know why I've never met Anthony, but we seem to be on the same page on a lot of stuff. So back in the day, I think he published that Reality's Plastic book at the same time that I was producing a lot of DVDs with John Sorbonne. And so I think we crossed paths back then. So, but here's what I always encourage people to do. Get trained by as many people as you can. People who are serious about doing the work of hypnosis as a profession never stop learning. A certification is the beginning. So, I learned hypnosis, whatever it was, 35 years ago, and I've never stopped learning. I love going to trainings. I register for events. Jason and I are going to 2 events this fall. We like learning. Last year I went to 2 years ago, because last year was COVID. 2 years ago, I went to the Ericksonian Congress in Phoenix, Arizona at the Milton Erickson Institute. Why would I go there? I was trained in Ericksonian hypnosis. I wrote the best-selling book on Ericksonian hypnosis. I wrote a book titled Speak Ericksonian. It is the best-selling book on Ericksonian hypnosis probably for the last 10 years. Yet I registered for the conference as a student. I took Bob Bolay's classes on Ericksonian hypnosis certification program long after I'd been doing hypnosis for years and even writing books. So there's anybody who's serious about hypnosis will take a lot of different trainings. And I think you should train with as many people as you possibly can. The more people you train with, the merrier. Take the things that are useful to you and leave the rest behind. Some people you'll train with, you're going to regret going to their training because they sucked. And some of them, you're going to be really happy you went to it. And you're going to you're going to find something of value in every one of those trainings, probably, even if you in the end didn't like the trainer. You know, I guarantee you there's people who don't like Richard Nongard. You know, I mean, I don't know who they are, but there's a few of them out there who don't like me, I'm sure, but they probably still got something out of my training. Right. I think most people do like me, though. Some people don't, though. I'm sure somebody hates me. So let's see.
Thank you for clearing up the certification thing, because that's been
certification.
It's been almost used as like a scare tactic in the academy that I first went to. I've now got certifications from 3 different academies working on an NLP one.
No client cares about your certification.
But the only reason that I went to like additional ones is because at first I just didn't feel like there was enough like education in the one that I initially graduated from. But then they threatened to take it away from me, and I actually thought that was a serious thing because I didn't know you could practice without it.
Yeah,
so I was like, oh my gosh, I better hurry up and
create your own certification on your printer at home, and it's just as valid as anybody else's certification. The value of a certification is simply, does that organization give back to the community in a way that betters hypnosis?
Yeah. Do they answer your questions? Do they support you as a practitioner?
So,
yeah. Yep.
So, you know, the ICBCH is not particularly exclusive. You know, we have a lot of people who are trainers for the ICBCH. They're authorized to do a training for other organizations too, you know, because our goal isn't to not be buddies with anybody else. We want to get along with everybody. We see value in a multiplicity of approaches. Remember, even Richard, the anti-regression guy, found value in regression as a relapse prevention tool. There's a time and a place for it. So all these things are considerate. Yeah, exactly. Clients don't know that certification. Clients are the ones who absolutely don't care about certification. Absolutely, they could care less. All they care about is, can you help me? Yep. So anybody who's an ICBCH member, Peter, can buy insurance through liability practice insurance from
I'm Energy Medicine Professional Association.
Yeah,
that's where I have mine.
You can buy. There's lots of different places. Hiscox is great. You don't have to be a member of any organization to buy from Hiscox, HISCOX. But American Professional Agency is probably the largest insurer of hypnotists, and anybody who's an ICBCH member has access to this. They require, the American Professional requires membership in any number of different organizations, and ICBCH is on their list. So there you go. I actually use Hiscox as my insurance, but that's, so if you have property and real estate associated with your business, as I have in the past, Hiscox has a better rider for that. But most people have, most hypnotists use American Professionals, pretty low cost, pretty effective. I am a licensed health and life agent in the state of Texas. I'm not the casualty and liability agent, but I understand insurance. I would probably just buy American Professional if I was in the USA. It's the lowest cost. I would buy Hiscox if I had property I was also insuring for my, so if you own your own building, Hiscox probably has a more robust plan to protect you from liability. But here's the great thing about American Professional was talking to the vice president not too long ago. She said, oh, we love insuring hypnotists because we never have to pay any claims. Right? And the reason why is you can't hurt somebody with hypnosis. If you're hurting somebody with hypnosis, it wasn't the hypnosis who hurt them. You were unethical, you fucked them, or you stole from them. That's what happened. It really is that simple. And I've never woken up in the morning and been like, wow, you know, I have a full load of clients today. Should I have sex with them or should I steal from them? I mean, you know, there are 7 billion people on the planet Earth for me to have sex with that are not on my caseload. So, you know, this temptation is, yes, some people do commit egregious violations of professional standards, but the reality is really being sued for doing hypnosis is 3 breaths, 2 hands, 1 minute of mindfulness. Where's the liability? There's not going to be any claims unless we're doing something unethical, which probably isn't hypnosis. I have no thought on Marissa Peer's training because I have never been to it. I never heard of her till I was in this group. I know nothing about her or what she teaches. I didn't even know she existed until this group. And I've been doing hypnosis for 30 years. So, but she's in another country. So yeah, I have no thought on it because I have no knowledge of it. Apparently a bunch of you in this group do, but I don't. I literally know nothing. Never heard of her until this group, and never read her book, and don't know anything about her. But it all sounds fascinating. So there you go. By the way, I don't necessarily know everybody, so it doesn't mean she is or isn't awesome that I don't know her. But I have been doing this for a long time. So, do you think hypnosis for detecting poker tells? We got all these poker questions. I think that rather than hypnosis being a lie detector for poker tells, hypnosis can be used to help people to become more aware of the people around them. Body language, the way, the congruency, non-congruency, all those sorts of things that we're looking for in poker. So, yeah, Ann wants to know about poker too. We should just do a whole poker thing. I love working with poker players, though, and I'm not a poker player. So here's my poker experience. It was about 10, 12 years ago. I walked into the Tropicana in Las Vegas, had some extra time, thought to myself, well, I'm going to play poker. I help all these poker players. And so I went into the poker room and I bought $400 worth of chips, and I really had no clue what I was doing. And so I sort of, I played poker online and I watched people play poker, and, I watched it on TV. And so I played a little bit of poker, and I had like $1,200 worth of chips in front of me. I was like, this is freaking awesome. I'm going to put my chips away and go get a sandwich. So like in 30 minutes, I'd won $1,200, but I was hungry. So I went and got some food, and I came back and I started playing again, and I lost the $1,200 worth of chips in about 7 minutes. And so there you go. I went from $400 to $1,200 to $0, and never played poker again for money. So, but I worked with a lot. That's a good example. You don't have to, you don't have to have the same problem your clients have in order to help them with hypnosis. In fact, sometimes having the same problem your client has stops you from doing a good job, right? So I have 33 years of sobriety. I've been sober in AA for 33 years. This is March 31st in 1988. I meet substance abuse counselors all the time. They're like, yeah, I've been sober. I got a recovery. Like, that's probably going to get in your way because you're going to think everybody's going to have to do it your way in order to find their path to wellness. Your inclination is to believe that your way is the best way because that's what you did. And that can really stand in the way of helping my client to become the best them they can be. I don't need them to become the best me they can be. So I don't even talk about that with my clients anymore. So.
Hey, I have a session starting in 30 minutes, so I'm going to go, but I don't think you need me anymore because everybody's already in the room.
Well, holy mackerel, we've been at this for an hour and a half.
Yes.
Wow.
Time flies.
What did one frog say to the other? My, how time's fun when you're having flies. I'm out of time as well because I actually have a class I'm teaching with Jason today. So nice. I have to get ready for that in 36 minutes, and I got to eat something.
I need to resume my work